This demon thinks he's dating you.
Yeah.
Stop using the Ouija board, for the love of God.
Okay, this demon has a sense of humor.
Look at me. You want real for ya? Careful what you seek. Welcome to Baba Yaga's crib, where fairy tales come to life. We're your hosts, Olga
And Veronica.
and we're here to unravel myth, legends, paranormal encounters, and mysteries that defy explanation, all the while creating art inspired by the current topic. So light a candle, grab a pencil, and prepare to be bewitched. You just stepped into
Baba Yaga's crib. If you're interested in this type of content, make sure to subscribe to our channel.
Do it now!
Do it. Okay, so for today's episode, we decided to do the drawing part off screen just because we both found it kind of distracting. But you can find the final artwork on our Instagram at Baba Yaga's Crib. So today we'll be covering demons.
Woo!
We're gonna read some spooky stories about demonic encounters, but before we do, we want to kind of dive into the history a little bit and figure out where this entity originated from. Okay, someone's scraping snow outside, so if you can hear that, we apologize.
Don't mind that.
Can't
You
do
live
anything
in
about
Canada.
it. Yeah, there's snow everywhere right now, and someone's scraping it.
It's the demon. I can hear demonic
Wait,
scratches
okay.
already.
So I made a special candle for today's episode just because it's extra spooky and we don't want to get haunted. So I made this candle for protection. Wait, it's like barely burning. We're fucked. Okay, we're gonna cleanse the space. We're cleansing the space of any negative energy. No demons or evil entities may enter. We are protected. Okay, I think we're good. Leave this burning just in case.
In the name of Jesus.
Okay, so in preparation for this episode, we both watched some spooky movies with demonic hauntings like The Exorcist and Drag Me to Hell. So we're prepared to talk about demons. Let's get into it. When you think of a demon, you probably picture something like the nun from Conjuring. Something that is pure evil, wants to steal your soul, drag you to hell, and torture you for all eternity. That is the kind of portrayal we normally get in movies and TV shows. And it's obviously heavily influenced by Christianity. In Christianity, demons are described as the embodiment of all evil, and the only thing that can defeat it is the Word of God. But apparently, demons didn't always have such a bad rep. Demons actually predate Christianity and other Abrahamic religions. Going back to ancient Mesopotamia, there were entities that existed somewhere in the middle, between gods and humans, and were often associated with nature. I guess they were technically spirits rather than demons. The word demon didn't exist back then. The Sumerian word for spirit was udug.
But it was oodog.
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 I think it's udug. But obviously it's like a really old text and we don't actually know how you say it. I mean, maybe historians do, but we're dumb.
We ain't no historians.
Yeah.
We're just girls.
We're just girls talking about demons. So udug is basically like an umbrella term from what I gathered of like spirits, which also included like benevolent and malevolent spirits as well as ghosts of the dead. So like your dead grandma is an udog. One of the most prolific spirits in Mesopotamian mythology was Pazuzu. If that name sounds familiar, it's because that was the demon from the movie The Exorcist. In the movie, Pazuzu possesses a young girl, and a Catholic priest attempts to save her by performing an exorcism.
I feel like in the movie, I thought the exorcism would help, but it didn't.
Yeah,
Spoilers, just in case you haven't seen that movie, but yeah.
Yeah, they failed badly.
Maybe the demon was too strong at that point.
Pazuzu was pizzazzing.
She did fuck around with the Ouija board. I didn't know that, but they do mention that she was like playing with the Ouija board. Like, don't fucking do it.
Yeah. Also, it's based on a real story.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
But it was like a little boy.
There was like a whole possession and everything?
Yeah. I don't think it was as dramatic as in the movie. According to historical texts, Pazuzu was a powerful wind deity that was associated with famine and plague. However, it wasn't considered evil necessarily. Ancient Mesopotamians viewed Pazuzu as a guardian spirit. Statues and amulets of Pazuzu were often kept in homes to ward off other harmful entities, such as Lamashtu, a malevolent spirit that targeted pregnant women and newborns.
What a bitch.
Yeah.
The most vulnerable population.
There wasn't really a concept of like good and evil. All the entities that existed were kind of like morally neutral, like morally ambiguous. Even though some of them were harmful, like they brought on diseases and hurricanes and stuff, but people didn't view it as the spirit is doing it because they hate us or because they're evil. It's more like it's just their job.
Yeah, it's like nature. It's not evil because it creates storms and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's like calling Mother Nature evil because your house was destroyed in a hurricane. Oh, apparently when they were filming The Exorcist, apparently there's a lot of like spooky things happening on set. So there was a carpenter who lost a thumb and a light technician who lost a toe.
Yeah, and also there's a big fire that burned the whole set.
Yeah, the fire burned the whole set except for Reagan's room, like the girl who got possessed. So because of all these things happening, they actually asked a real priest who was technical advisor for the film to perform an exorcism on the set, but apparently he thought that it would freak people out. So instead he did a blessing on the crew. So the word demon originated from the Greek word daimon. In ancient Greece, daimons were supernatural entities that existed in the middle between the world of gods and the world of humans. They were powerful, but not as powerful as the Greek gods. Some were positive, helping humans, while others tended to cause trouble. Daimons were divided into 3 categories. The first group were the daimons that influence the person's will. That's kind of like more in line with how we view the devil today, trying to get you to do things you would normally do. The second group were the daimons that were associated with things that people couldn't explain at the time, such as natural disasters, illnesses, famine, etc. These daimons were considered more neutral and could either have positive or negative effects on people's lives. So they were basically like personifications of nature, kind of like the spirits from Mesopotamia.
Yeah, it's very similar.
There were also daimons that were attached to people from birth, and they served as guides that determined your destiny. So like spirit guides or guardian angels.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they're basically like around you at all times, kind of like your bodyguard.
But like their job is to protect you, or
I think so. I don't know, because it says they determine your destiny. So maybe you have like a written path in life and they're kind of leading you down the path that you're supposed to go. I don't know if they necessarily protect you.
They're just like, she's gonna die tomorrow, so let's
make it happen. Let's go.
Let's go, boys.
So the Greek philosopher Socrates referred to his daimon as a voice inside his head that guided him and warned him against certain actions that could be harmful to him. So the belief in a single god and the concept of good versus evil were introduced somewhere between the 6th and 7th centuries BCE. The old gods were labeled as demons, and if you worshipped them, you yourself were considered evil or corrupt. So basically, if you wanted to continue worshipping these old gods, everyone else kind of saw you as
abomination.
The Book of Watchers is a section of the Book of Enoch, a religious text that details a story of 200 angels coming to Earth to marry humans and teach them forbidden knowledge. As a result of that, Nephilims, or giants, were created, and these giants later became demons. Okay, so according to the story, a bunch of angels came down to Earth to marry humans, and they also taught them forbidden knowledge, which included things like witchcraft and how to build and use weapons. But then there's also stuff like astrology, gardening, arts, and makeup.
Gardening.
Yeah. Like teaching.
That sounds like a positive thing. Why
Exactly.
shouldn't we know how to do that?
Yeah, like why? What were humans doing before this?
Mm-hmm.
Because this sounds dope. Like they taught us how to do our makeup tutorial from Lucifer.
He ate.
So basically, it sounds like every spirit that was an angel or god were a demon. Like fallen angels were demons, their kids were demons,
Their
pagan
grandkids.
gods, grandkids.
When I was doing research too for this episode, they were talking about how before Middle Ages, there were, I think, like a few hundred demons, like 200 or whatever. But then after Middle Ages, it was like thousands and thousands of different demons that they created. And like in writing, they would mention all these different demons and they would literally blame demons for everything that was happening. Like if you stub your toe, demon. If you, I don't know, lose your keys, demon again.
You get a hangnail, it's a demon.
Yeah, they were just blaming them left and right for everything in their life that wasn't going right. But I think it's also because during Middle Ages things were so chaotic. That's why they're trying to find like a scapegoat to blame things on, so people would understand like, oh, this is happening because of like a demon that's doing this, versus like, oh,
It's your own
brought
fault.
it on yourself.
So fast forward to the 17th century when the Lesser Key of Solomon was compiled. It was unclear who wrote this text, but it used a bunch of information from older sources, including sorcery, ritualistic magic, demonology, and angelology. So King Solomon was a biblical king who ruled during the 10th century BCE. He was also said to be an extremely powerful sorcerer who was able to command legions of demons using a magical ring engraved by God himself. According to the text, he used it to force these demons to build him a temple.
Do you think Tolkien borrowed that idea? Solomon, Sauron,
Maybe.
the ring.
The ring to rule them all. Yeah, so basically he had this ring that allowed him to control a bunch of demons, and what he did with it was make these demons build him a temple. Like, he couldn't just hire a bunch of builders.
He didn't even get paid for it.
Probably not. Unpaid labor.
See, that's why demons hate us.
I know, I was thinking about this. He summoned all these demons. He forced them to work for him. So obviously after that, they were like, humans suck. Let's fucking get them.
Fuck you.
So Ars Goetia is the most famous section of the book that details information about the 72 demons that King Solomon summoned. According to this book, the demons were divided into 7 different ranks: kings, princes, counts, dukes, knights, marquises, and presidents. Each of them have their own individual seal that must be used in order to control them. So legend has it that King Solly was a little afraid that these demons were going to come after him and the rest of humanity. So he got this brass vessel. I don't know where he got it from. God. Maybe he made it. God gave it to him again. I don't know why God was so...
He made the demons build it.
But he used it to contain all the demons. And yeah.
And he threw it in the ocean.
Yeah, he threw it in the ocean. According to the legend, the vessel was discovered by Babylonians or Greeks, and they opened that shit and set all the demons free.
Idiot.
Yeah. So now the demons are mad as shit because they were shoved into a little jar.
Yeah, that's why they fucking hate humans. And now we
King
just
Solomon's fault.
Oh, let's play with the Ouija board and summon some fucking demons.
We wonder why they don't want to help us. They're like, what can we do to get our revenge? Torture them in hell.
Let's fuck with their light.
So Demon Valak from The Conjuring is actually based on a real demon, I guess, from the book. So Ars Goetia describes Valak as the president of hell, leading 30 legions of demons. And he's depicted as a child with angel wings riding a 2-headed dragon.
It's kind of cute.
I know. When I saw this, I was like, really? It looks like a cherub. But I guess that's kind of the the idea is that it presents as this like angelic being. So Solomonic magic is considered high magic and should not be taken lightly. It requires a lot of energy and precision. If you perform the ritual incorrectly, it will not work, and there's also a chance that the demon will turn on you and try to harm you in the process. So, why in the hell would someone want to summon a demon? Is probably what you're thinking. But according to some modern practitioners, demons can be powerful allies, and not everyone who works with demons practice the Solomonic magic, which is where you summon, bind, and command the demon. Some modern practitioners actually prefer to like build a relationship with the demon and treat it as someone would treat like a deity or their ancestors, like giving them offerings and talking to them and trying to like form a connection basically.
It's kind of similar to what Mesopotamians did, right?
Yeah. So Lilith is one of the more popular demons, or depends on like how you view her, either a demon or a goddess, that people who are practicing witchcraft like to work with. So who is Lilith? I always knew her as Adam's first wife who refused to submit to him and was then banished from the Garden of Eden. But she's actually been around for much longer than that, dating back to ancient Mesopotamia. So there's a lot of conflicting information about her. In some versions of the story, she is a powerful storm spirit that is associated with death and disease. And in others, she is a dark goddess linked to the night, the moon, and wild animals, such as snakes and owls. In Hebrew tales, she's a nightmare demon that targets pregnant women and infants, so kind of like Lamashtu. They kind of seem similar in that aspect. She's also associated with female sexuality and rebellion. And nowadays, she kind of became a huge icon in the witchcraft community. She symbolizes freedom, power, independence for a lot of women, which is why many want to work with her to kind of embody these qualities. I also read somewhere that there is a difference between a named demon and unnamed demon. So basically, if you kind of feel as though there is a demonic presence, if you ask its name and it tells you, then it's probably not there to hurt you. Because I guess the idea is that like if you know what something is called, you have some power over it.
Wasn't it in Conjuring that they say that once you know the name of the demon, it's almost like you have power over it?
Yeah.
Who the fuck are you?
I'm the fucking president of hell. Who are you?
So we have some stories that we're going to read today about demonic entities fucking with people. So the first story is coming from r/paranormal subreddit. It's called Haunted by a Demon for 15 Years, Answering All Your Questions and Giving Advice. Trigger warning, this story mentions self-harm and suicide, so if you are sensitive towards these topics, please skip forward. I've commented on a lot of posts about my experiences, and every time there are a few people messaging me wanting to talk about it or ask me stuff. Somehow they never end up responding again, but I thought I would make an official post about my experience and share some of my knowledge that I've gathered over the years. It's going to be a very long post, so I hope you can bear with me. I apologize for any typos or spelling errors. So it all started when me, my brother, and my father moved into a house. It was a 3-story house with 2 apartments on each floor. The house was over 100 years old, but well renovated, and right across the street was my new school. We were surrounded by a lovely park. All in all, an amazing place to grow up. I was 5, maybe 6 years old at the time. Back then, I noticed a lot of shadows in the corner of my eyes. This went on for 10 years, without realizing that it is, in fact, not a normal eye thing. When I was young, I was extremely afraid of the dark, and for some reason, I always thought Batman was going to stand there when I opened my eyes and kill me.
Is the child the Joker?
Thinking back, Batman was a very tall, black figure, which is going to be important later on. I've always been extremely sensitive to the energies around me and the paranormal, so my guess is that I already sensed this presence but didn't know what it was yet. I was also dealing with depression and insomnia ever since I was very young due to bad family stuff. When I got older, about 12, my mental issues started to worsen drastically, and I started to cut myself and stuff like that. My insomnia was pretty bad, and after I was finished with high school at 15, my sleep cycle was fucked beyond repair. So I was usually awake at night and slept during the day, or often not at all. I was constantly sleep deprived. Weird stuff started to happen. Objects would disappear and reappear after months. Stuff would randomly fall off shelves and harmless stuff like that, but I noticed it and it was odd. I started hearing voices yelling or whispering my name. It was the voices of my dad or brother most of the time, only to realize they weren't home or were asleep. It got worse pretty fast. It was a long time ago, and I can't remember in what order things happened, but there were multiple auditory things going on. Gurgling like someone was being choked to death from the middle of our living room, strange music awaking me at night coming from the corner of my room to then get more silent and disappear again, knocking on the walls always 3 times. Horrible demonic screeches, footsteps, mainly coming from the attic, which was right above our apartment. Sometimes it sounded like someone was throwing around a whole closet up there. Really loud rumbling in the middle of the night. That's like The Exorcist.
Yeah.
By that time, I already knew my house was haunted, but I didn't know what it was yet. So me and my neighbor and my friend Natasha, who are my age, we grew up together. She also had an older brother that was my brother's age called Peter. Started to investigate. We realized that she and her brother had been bothered by the entity before. They had a guest room that was mainly where it stayed at first. Ever since I lived there, I could not enter the room because the presence was so overwhelmingly evil, almost like the air was crushing you. That same feeling I got after it started and had it 24/7 for about a year. That feeling as if someone is standing right behind you holding a knife at your back. Very, very uneasy. I'm sure some of you know the feeling. Not me, thank God. So I tried to communicate with it and gave it lots of attention, thinking it was a ghost, which was my biggest mistake. Things got a lot worse very quickly, and it had completely attached to me because I was the perfect victim and the buffet of negative emotions, which I later learned was their main energy source to make them stronger.
It got worse after they acknowledged it?
Yeah, because the OP is saying, so I tried to communicate with it and gave it a lot of attention. So that one night, I looked at the shadow in the corner of my eyes, and I saw a black silhouette of a cat jump off my bed and disappear midair, or rather evaporating like smoke. I jumped around because I sensed someone standing behind me, and there it was in full form. It was what many people call shadow people or hat men. I'm sure there are other terms, but I later learned that these shadowy figures are demons and they can appear in various forms, often with glowing eyes or a hat. Mine was blank, no face, no hands or feet, not even a real head, but it was about 2 meters tall and filled up the room with dark smoky shadow and stared into my soul with its non-existent eyes for a moment. How do you know if it was staring at you if it didn't have eyes?
I don't know, I guess you can feel it maybe?
I froze in shock, but as fast as it appeared before me, it disappeared again. After that, things got really bad because I started to really research and knew what I was dealing with. I got obsessed. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. This was all I cared about. He started to play mind games after that point, which was probably the peak of his haunting. Due to my depression and suicidal tendencies, I welcomed darkness and wasn't scared of many things. After that night, I almost started to cry when the lights were out or only half on. He knew that and used it against me, shattering a light bulb in our apartment every 2 days or so.
I just got like goosebumps.
Imagine.
That is horrifying.
We were pretty poor, so you wouldn't always get a new one immediately, and since I was awake at night, I had to deal with it. He was active during the day too, but when the clock hit 2 to 4 a.m., it was the worst. That's when they are most active. They usually say 3 a.m., right? 2 to 4. What is with that specific time? Like,
I think shadow people just like to be in the dark, I guess, so they can hide.
One time I walked into the kitchen, and before I could turn on the lights, I stood on something weird. turn on the lights to find the floor crawling with maggots. Every inch was covered in them. I was shocked, grossed out, panicked, and tried to shovel them up and put them in the trash, basically crying through the whole thing.
Oh my god.
Somehow they disappeared into the walls after a few minutes. There weren't any cracks, which added to my confusion.
I feel like this would piss me off. I'd be like, fuck you. Get out of my house.
Yeah, I feel like I would try and be like, get out.
Yeah.
One time I talked to it all day, just speaking into the air, but it felt its presence, and hoped it would let me sleep late at night. I remember saying something like, I gave you attention all day, and I would appreciate if you just let me sleep now. The energy in the room suddenly got really aggressive, and I felt something choking me for a few minutes.
Oh my god.
It's like, no bitch.
I feel so bad for this person. They're like, I gave you
know.
attention. You want more?
It's like your cat. That was the one and only physical attack I experienced. They generally don't want, that's probably got like enough strength because you gave it so much attention.
Yeah. I wonder if in those cases, if you have to, because I guess the acknowledging makes it stronger, but if you acknowledge it, but you're like aggressive towards it, you're like, get out of my house. I feel like you almost have to command it.
But do you think if you're too
In
aggressive,
the name of God.
if you're too aggressive, could it also give energy?
Maybe. That's what I'm wondering. But I think that's
it's
what
almost,
they...
if you're ignoring it, maybe that would be the best option. But sometimes it's hard to ignore it.
I don't think you should ignore it. I think you have to
Set boundaries.
Set boundaries, cleanse the house. I also heard that sounds annoy them.
I'm fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Just blast music. They generally don't want to physically harm us because it would be counterproductive. They will, however, do it if it helps their grand plan to break us. Basically, I was an exhausted wreck because I spent my nights literally fighting off a demon. I knew I needed to help. She needed Buffy.
Seriously. Or Sam and Dean.
Yeah. Call the Winchesters. I knew I needed help and registered in a paranormal forum. There was a guy who ended up helping me twice. He was magically talented and able to attract, project, and stuff like that. Back then, he strongly weakened the demon, and it actually stopped for a few years. Every now and then, little things would happen, but nothing that made me worry. He still followed me everywhere and had a strong negative impact on my emotions and overall well-being, so much that he drove me to try and commit suicide at the age of 16. There were other reasons that contributed to it, but I strongly believe that he was to blame for the most part. No kidding.
Yeah, that would fuck you up.
It's crazy, yeah. It's like
this
feeding on your energy, literally.
Yeah.
So I could see you being so exhausted that it's like, what's the point? This whole experience was extremely traumatizing, like living in a horror movie. Besides my friends who lived in the house, no one believed me. My dad didn't take me seriously, and my brother knew stuff was going on, but he was scared, so he decided to ignore it and leave me alone with it. That would suck.
Yeah.
The brother just sees like things flying around, and he's just like,
not my problem.
Yeah.
Not my circus, not my monkeys.
There were so many more things that happened, but I can't possibly write them all down here. This post is already long enough. I saw some apparitions over the years or heard weird stuff, but overall it left me alone. Not sure if he was waiting for the right time again or if he was too weak. After my suicide attempt, I went to a clinic and met my future best friend. We started to communicate with the demon through the Ouija board.
Why?
But there wasn't much useful stuff, he said. I learned that they just tell you what you want to hear and that you can basically not believe a single word they say. I developed some kind of fucked up mental connection with him. Well, about 2 years ago, he became active again. I went to bed at night and my boyfriend was already lying there. Put out all the lights and closed my eyes. I opened them again and noticed there was light in the living room. As I looked, the light was turned off again. He waited until I looked. These light plays were what he used to do years ago too, and while this might seem harmless, I knew this was it. It's starting again. I was so scared that my body was shaking violently for hours, and my boyfriend had to comfort me. The boyfriend is like, what the fuck? I contacted my friend who helped me years ago and spent a couple of months developing a plan to trap the demon in an object. My friend ended up going behind my back and did something far more risky, but it worked, and the demon is gone for good. At least I think he is because the connection is severed and I don't feel him anymore.
What did he do?
but I will know in a few years. Since there are so many people dealing with demons, I will add 3 major signs that you're dealing with a demon. Number 1, shadows in the corner of your eyes or black apparitions. This also includes the famous sleep paralysis figures. Number 2, knocking 3 times. Number 3, extreme tense energy in the room, like the air is going to crush you, strong feeling of being watched. Other signs that might occur more frequently than usual: very negative thoughts, sleep paralysis. Also, if you deal with mental illness like depression or similar, it is more likely that you are being haunted by a demon or attract one and get an attachment, like I did. If you experience any of things I mentioned, do not engage with it. Just ignore it or pretend you don't notice it. Try not to be scared. If that doesn't work, let the entity know that this is your space and that only light beings are allowed to come near you and stuff like that. Basically telling it that it is not allowed near you and that it has no power over you, but stay respectful. Best is to not give it any sort of attention whatsoever. There's no way out unless you have a person like I did, which is very unlikely, and I was very lucky that he contacted me and helped me.
That's why you need to become that person.
Yeah. I might also mention that I did get tested for schizophrenia or psychosis and had none of that. And the psychiatrists were kind of speechless about what I told them. I'm happy to answer all your questions if you have any and help out other people who are dealing with stuff like this. I spent years learning about demonology and know exactly how they behave and what their goal is. Thanks for reading.
So did they never say what their friend did to get rid of the demon?
So someone commented, so you managed to trap it in an object? How does that work? Did you get rid of the object? And the OP said, my friend ended up not doing that. We had a huge fight because of it. Technically, I would have holded on to the object for safety reasons, but if it still created a bad effect on me, I would dispose of it in any way that hopefully no one ever found it, like burying it deep in the ground in a big forest. The way he described to me, he would have mentally, or maybe it was per astral projection, I'm not 100% sure which one it was, suck the demon into the object, but I couldn't do it because I wasn't good at that kind of stuff. So yeah, I mean, you kind of have to like know how to do that properly though. So I wonder what he did instead. And someone else commented on that on the comment about how the demon was. How would you go about putting a demon into an object, like King Solomon?
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
It has to be bind to an object, and I don't think that is possible through astral projection, since a human has energy limits and even a lesser demon has more energy than a human. I don't know about that though. I don't believe a lesser demon has more power than a human. I mean, not all humans have the power of like mind, right?
Yeah.
Where you can just control things, but with your mind, you still have to learn how to do that. But I feel like potentially humans have more energy. That's why demons try and attach to you.
Hopefully that thing stays away from OP.
Yeah.
Because that sounds really annoying.
Yeah, no kidding.
It's like a crazy ex just keeps coming back.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, you thought I was gone. I'm back.
Yeah, it's creepy that it like attaches to you.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's really hard to get rid of it. Moving on to the next story. Story number 2, coming from r/witchcraft. What is it like to work with demons? A post. Hello, friendly neighborhood demonolator/Luciferian here.
Demonolator? I hardly knew her. Anyway.
I see a lot of fearfulness when it comes to spirit practices, and especially a lot of fearfulness when it comes to working with demons or demonized entities. So to begin with, the term demon is especially broad. It ranges from diamonds, wise spirits of old gods thrown into the basket by religion developing alongside theirs. It is not uncommon for one faith to have declared all the spirits of a neighboring faith is evil, unworthy of godhood, or somewhat less than your own spirits, and vice versa. Spirits that we don't like because their domain is not favorable to us, while being fully required in nature, to relatively new spirits, for example, as Cannoli has introduced Asafoetida, there's no historical record of that spirit ever being more than a plant. This will happen quite commonly with new occult authors who want to offer something new. They'll discover a spirit. This is not to say that practicing with those spirits is wrong or not fruitful. By chaos magic principles, we believe we feed it energy, so by all intentions and purposes, it exists. It is not uncommon for people to classify a ghost that gives them bad vibes or a poltergeist as a demon. But if you ask people who practice with demons, they're rarely the spirits that people are talking about. People that work with such spirits, especially in demonolatry, rather than ceremonial magic way, will often see the spirits similar to pagan gods, and their connection will express itself in a similar way. They can have an altar, they might pray, they might meditate on the spirit as a devotional act, they may write petitions to the spirits, or they might bring offerings. Offerings will also not really differ from the norm. It is much more likely that the person's offering will be a cool rock that they found outside or tasty food than something that the broader media would imagine a demon worshiper doing, probably like sacrifices or something scary. Now, some people might involve sex magic, blood magic, and even animal sacrifice into their craft, but such things are more likely to come up in culturally appropriate settings if you come from a faith where offering your village cow to the gods or your backyard chicken that you raised for dinner is more common. You're more likely to incorporate these practices into your new faith. The same if you were, for example, sexually repressed. You may start practicing sex magic in order to liberate yourself from your own thoughts that have the idea that self pleasure is shameful. In other words, the people working with demons are not that much different from you, and their practices also are unlikely to be entirely shocking if witchcraft or paganism is already something that you are used to. Yeah, but what is it like? What does the practice feel like, you may ask? And I would say that it varies person to person, the spirit that they're working with, and the direction that they're going in. Someone focused on becoming a successful businessman will have an entirely different life than someone who feels pulled to death and has made the decision to seek to work in a funeral home. Some people do short workings with many different spirits. Some stick with one or a couple above all for a longer period of time. My biggest advice would be know the kind of spirit that you are planning to work with. Chasing a spirit of knowledge is unlikely to bring you material wealth. Walking with a spirit of wrath will eventually lead you to confronting your own anger and how you deal with it. And choosing a spirit of death can lead you to studying the traditions of dying and crossing over. There will always be some agreed upon similarities from people working with the same spirit. Sometimes those similarities wouldn't be something that we would personally rate highly on our experience list. For example, working with Beelzebub may mean that you're extra likely to confront flies. The ancient god of healing and by extension disease had a fly as their symbol. This doesn't mean that you would encourage a fly infestation, but you may be especially well attuned to such possibilities and would be keeping your house extra clean in order to avoid that. People who work with Lilith are unlikely to have children. This doesn't make it impossible, but they're walking with a spirit that's known for being the spirit of stopping procreation. The path itself hints at the kind of person that would choose it. Someone who is looking to perhaps not have children and is concerned with abortion rights is more likely to align with the Lilith, and therefore correlation emerges. But why would you? Is a question that is about as productive as being surprised that someone prefers key lime pie over red velvet cake. We're all different people, and therefore the spirits that we are suited to work with are also going to be different. It is worth noting that people who work with demons in general don't see them as imps that are there to cause them trouble. The practitioner's experience is also likely to be of a rather positive type, the same as you would expect from any healthy spiritual practice. But are you not afraid that you'll be punished in the afterlife, you may ask? And no, that's not my personal belief. I don't see any faith as superior or inferior, nor do I see any path as being a shortcut or somehow easier. You're spiritual, you practice spirituality, life still happens. My outlook toward the afterlife is as positive as any other person's that has the belief of an afterlife. I like my spirits, I like their energy, and I see being with that energy as joy and not some sort of forever punishment. This was a long type, but I hope that this helps to recognize other people as people and demystifies the whole thing a little bit. What do you think about working with demons?
I was thinking about it a lot, and I just have a lot of conflicting thoughts. I think because we come from a Christian background, I still have a lot of this lingering fear around demons because they are described as like pure evil and they're not there to help you. But at the same time, there's like the idea that each entity is like its own thing. Like a demon is kind of a broad term. Each entity has its own agenda, I guess. I don't know if that's the right word.
But I see it as you don't know who you're dealing with. Even if you are giving all that energy to kind of like build a relationship with an entity, you still don't know what their intention is.
Yeah.
So to me, it's kind of like I have a hard time trusting people too. Like you don't want to be friends with everyone.
Yeah.
And you're very like I personally am like more selective with people that I invite into my life. So it's almost like they have to like prove themselves to me before I can like tell them all my secrets.
Yeah.
There's a question on here that someone asked on the post that's really informative. May I ask what else do you learn from working with them? And the OP replies, loads of things. Better emotional control for one thing, bravery in social situations for another, ability to be more me. I seem to have reshaped myself as a person slowly enough that I did not notice. A lot of shadow work was involved too. Then there were also more opportunities and also more equilibrium where it comes to my health. I might not always avoid life, but I can better deal with it.
That's interesting. Working with demons to almost confront your inner demons.
Okay, moving on. Story number 3, coming from r/paranormal. Never shared publicly, but here is my demonic experience. You want real for ya? Careful what you seek. First, I will make this clear up front. This is ultimately a testimony and what single-handedly turned me to Jesus. 2, every word is the 100% truth and my memory is crystal clear. There's no part of this that is fuzzy to me because it was so traumatic that I cannot nor want to forget. 3. I'm not here to force believers, convert anybody to Christianity, or embellish. 4. I understand bringing religion into this will turn many people away. That is fine. I see this as my personal truth and simply wish to share my experience because there is a small chance this will protect others from horror they've never experienced. With those things out of the way, I present my experience with the demonic. Background. I grew up raised to Christian values, even attending Catholic private school for a couple of years. Despite this, I was a standout problem child and never really believed in any of it at all. I found some of the stories from the Bible interesting, but overall detested going to church. Nobody in my family really forced their religion on me. I just happened to be within a family that held mild Christian values. With that said, none of them were really devout Christians themselves. This is important because it should be understood that I was quite aware of Christian beliefs, but never actually took them as truth. Let's jump forward now to my teenage years, where all of this began. At the age of 12, I was engaged with all things mystical and mysterious. I read books and browsed websites on everything between ancient aliens, conspiracy, ghosts, mediums, witchcraft, Illuminati, and the demonic, like this podcast. This was around 2003 to 2004, so just past the turn of the millennium. All of these things were of great interest to me, but I had no actual evidence or reason to believe in any of it. It wasn't until my family had made the decision to move that these things became more viable. My parents had locked in a house they thought was perfect for us and were close to closing the deal. My mother wanted her mother, my grandma, to come approve of it first. While I ran around the empty rooms trying to decide where I would have my bedroom, my mother showed my grandmother around. After the tour was given, my grandmother felt uneasy about the house, specifically the second floor. She didn't like the way it was set up and worried about what would happen if there was a fire while my siblings and I were up there. This wasn't enough reason to deter my mother, though. After they checked over the potential new home, we proceeded to head back to the car. While on the drive, my mother mentioned to my grandma how she was weirded out because she could have sworn she saw a little girl staring at her from the second floor window.
Ooh, creepy.
This led my parents to investigate the history of the house, and they found to their amazement that there was, in fact, a fire on the second floor of this house many years prior, and that young girl had perished in the flames.
Damn.
With that said, this strange coincidence was not enough to stop them from trying to buy the house. It was actually the fact that upon inspection there was found to be a roach infestation, and my mother would not have any part of that. She's like, a ghost? I don't care about, but fucking cockroaches? Hate those bitches.
I draw the line at bugs.
Honestly, I get it.
Yeah.
This led us to find our actual new home in another nearby town. This house was approved much quicker and had the okay of my grandmother as well. So, is the grandmother like a medium or something?
Maybe she's just like sensitive to that stuff.
Well, she like was worried about the fire, and there's actually a fire that happened there. She was like, "This house looks like it could catch on fire."
She's a psychic.
I mean, I don't know what was the setup because she said like in case of a fire, like maybe it was like a weird staircase, like the
Yeah.
or
maybe.
like you're not supposed to have like cages on the windows.
I feel like whenever I move into a house, I always check all the rooms and I think of like escape routes if I need to get out.
So a couple of busy days go by, and we are pretty much all moved in and settled at our new home. This is when we get a knock on our door. Turns out it was the woman who previously lived there who sold us the house. She wanted to pass a message on to us. The message being that her mother had died in the house and that she would occasionally appear, but that we shouldn't worry because she was friendly and was just attached to the house.
Oh, okay.
Thanks! You could have told us this before you sold the house, maybe?
Well, obviously she didn't want to because then they wouldn't buy it.
Then don't say anything at all.
Okay, I'm gonna fucking smoke cleanse this house and your mom is gonna need to go. She can't stay.
Yeah.
We're not gonna be
Take her
roommates.
with you.
Yeah, take your mom with you.
Cut to a few weeks later, I had made a new best friend who lived right down the street from me. My house number was 112 and his was 12. I thought that was pretty cool, but no special meaning there. It wasn't long after that I became close with this family, and they in turn became close with my parents. We would regularly visit each other's homes for get-togethers. At the first get-together, we had my friend's parents ask mine about the move, where my parents filled them in on the details. This is where things got a little strange. To our surprise, my friend's family actually lived in the house we had looked at prior for a good decade, where they proceeded to say they moved because the house was incredibly haunted. They said there were 2 different ghosts in that house, one of which was a young girl, and the other a malevolent old man. This shocked my family. So far, intuition was on point. That was like the first house that they looked at that they didn't end up buying.
So it's just like a mean old man haunting them.
That reminds me of Conjuring 2. Get out! My friend had 3 older brothers, 2 young brothers, and 2 younger sisters, one of whom they adopted. They also ran a daycare out of their house, so it was quite packed on a daily, lol. Each of the older brothers had traumatizing hauntings happen to them in that house. The oldest brother, who was 21 at the time, still wouldn't sleep with the lights off because of it. This was the first point in my life where I saw multiple people confirming and agreeing upon spiritual activity in real capacity. Now let's jump forward to about the age of 14. Following my same interest, I was fascinated with the idea of ghosts and spirits. I wanted nothing more to interact with them in some way or another. But despite the past mentionings, I myself hadn't seen one single shred of their existence. It was frustrating. I tried all manner of contact, bought crystal balls, stared into a mirror in the dark, looked into black ink, researched Enochian, literally everything under the sun, but nothing would work. That is until I opened a Ouija board on my 15th Christmas. If there is one message to take from this entire thing, it is, I tell you from the bottom of my soul, do not engage with the Ouija board. I didn't immediately use it, but one day my friend and I were chilling per usual, and I had remembered the new Ouija board I had gotten for Christmas. I asked him if he wanted to use it with me, and he hesitantly said yes. I made him go down into the basement with me because where else would be the perfect place to use it? I had just opened the box and placed the board when my friend chickened out on me. I mocked him and told him, I'm gonna do it myself then. I placed the little piece on the board and proceeded to ask it questions. But no avail. Nothing. I was extremely disappointed. I thought for sure this was going to be it, but no. I put it back in the box, brought it upstairs, and that was that. Or so I thought. Boy, was I wrong, as wrong could be. Immediately over the next couple of days, I started experiencing things that were unusual. Simple things at first, like lights being funny, my dog acting strange, objects and doors moving, simple things. This, however, was spectacular to me. I had no fear whatsoever. If anything, I was extremely excited and more into the occult than ever. I thought this was it, when I've been waiting for paranormal activities.
Oh my god, this person is ruthless.
These types of things continued for the next couple of years steadily. Then it finally happened. I saw my first ghost ever. I was 16 at that point and had been making my way from the kitchen through the dining room toward the living room. While I was between the kitchen and the dining room, I saw what I thought was my mother walking toward the kitchen from the connecting hallway. I took a note in my peripheral of her pink dress, which threw me off a bit because my mother normally doesn't wear such a thing. She was a goth girl. It wasn't until I made my way through the dining room to the living room that I saw my mother and my father sitting on the couch watching a movie. This instantly made me take 5 because I realized my mother was not only not wearing a pink dress, but was not in the hallway going to the kitchen. I proclaimed to my parents instantly of the shock and surprise I was in, but they shrugged it off and continued with the movie. I didn't press the issue because I was now thrilled with the fact that I had actually seen a ghost, and I had instantly presumed it to be the prior owner's deceased mother. I would go on to look at her as a guardian spirit of the house, so to speak, though I never did see her again. This event was ultimately a bad thing because it put me more at ease with the idea of communicating with the dead. I took her spirit as an example of what all spiritual things would be like, which pushed me further into looking for such things. Come on. However, over the next 2 years, things progressed for the worse. I developed insomnia. There would be random spots in the house that would make your blood run cold. Doors would knock over and over. Things would be thrown out of closets, off dressers, and shelves. One of the more creepy occurrences would be electronics acting without electricity. Dolls would speak their recorded sounds on cue without batteries, because I had taken their batteries out of all such things to try and prevent this.
Dolls?
Dolls.
Okay, that shit's going in the garbage.
I
It's like
know.
Chucky.
Lights would go on and off repeatedly. I've even had TVs go white static and start blasting max volume. I would unplug them and it would stay on and go louder.
That's horrifying.
This scared the straight crap out of me. Literally getting chills through my body reminiscing this right now. These weren't things where I could question other possibilities. These things were seen as nothing other than what they were, impossibilities. There was one thing in particular when it clicked, and the fear had taken hold of me. I had recently at the time gotten into Harry Potter books, big reader as a youngster. I was sitting on the couch in my basement, which was now redone as a TV room, where lots of the things would happen. I had one of these little bendy lamps used for reading books as my only illumination. I was thinking to myself how great these books are and how I thought it was funny that people at the time thought they were of the devil. I shit you not, as I'm in this thought process, the light bulb explodes, projecting the glass shards at me. Luckily, no harm done, but I instantly hopped up in the fear and ran out of my basement to escape the dark. I flew up the basement stairs where dolls started going off. Some bins of toys were kept under the stairs. The fear jolted in me. I sprinted even faster and finally opened the basement door and reached for the hallway light switch in front of me, flicking it as quickly as I could. Again, I shit you not, as soon as I did, the hallway bulb exploded.
Dude, okay, this is straight out of a horror movie.
At this point, I'm thinking, no fucking way is this happening right now. This happened 2 more times in the living room, and once more on the second floor, once I made my way up to the stairs. 4 light bulbs exploded in total. Now again, I'm quite rational despite these things. I'm aware this could be a very coincidental electrical wiring problem, but everything that ultimately happened says otherwise. I made it to my bedroom on the second floor, where things normalized out, and it finally had light. It was at this point in life that these experiences were taking a toll on me, really ramping up my insomnia. Yeah, no shit.
When did this happen? Was it at night? Because I'd be fucking out of that house if light bulbs were exploding.
Yeah. I mean, he's a teenager technically.
Yeah.
So
but I would not run upstairs. I'd be like, I'm out of here.
I was in a constant fear while at home due to these things happening left and right. Some of things so common I barely batted a lash at them. Now, before we get to the big one, I want to give just a few more descriptions of everyday occurrences at this point. While lying in bed, I would do everything in my power to avoid looking at my closet, which had a nasty habit of opening wide so I would be gazing straight into a dark void. And before you say draft, I might add I would lock blockade it regularly. No matter what I did, this freaking door would push itself wide open, moving whatever blocked it right out of the way. It got so bad that I tried bargaining with it, telling it was free to do what it wanted as long as it wouldn't open on me while I was trying to sleep.
No.
It's like you're giving it so much freedom at this
Do what
point.
you want. Like, possess me, kill me, ruin my life. Just don't open the doors.
I'm 33 now, and I tell you as a well-rounded adult that this was not mind tricks. Not every night, but quite a few of them, I would feel things crawling beside me onto my bed. Not in the general sense of where your mind is questioning if you're actually feeling or not, but in the sense that the spring mattress would straight indent and compress at the invisible force crawled right beside me. Again, this scared the shit out of me. I would freeze in fear. The last occurrence that I would see all the time affected other people. Due to my sleeping problems, I was always the last one to fall asleep. I witnessed multiple times people's arms being raised in their sleep like they were reaching for the sky. There was a day when I had a cousin and two friends crashing over, and I watched as one by one their arms were rising in the air. It made me feel like whatever this was taunting me, showing me that it could do whatever it wanted to whoever. The real kicker is when I was sleeping on the air mattress in my youngest brother's room, 4 years younger. I did this because at this point I was so terrified to sleep alone that I needed to be near somebody to feel somewhat safe. As I was dozing off, I watched my little brother's arms raise into the air. The only difference is that this time he actually woke up while it was happening. I watched him groggily realize that was happening to him, and he jumped up to his feet, turned and ran into the freaking wall out of terror and panic.
Oh my god.
I legit started laughing because I had never seen anything so absurd and shocking in my entire life.
Jesus.
The way his feet moved like an old cartoon, like he was the Sonic the Hedgehog. The way the blankets jumbled beneath his scurrying feet and the sheer speed which he hopped up and darted into the wall. Safe to say, neither my brother nor I got any sleep that night. So if you have made it this far, you understand at this point that whatever is going on has been ramping up and has become more bothersome by the day. And this is where we climax. I had grown quite brave at this point because these things were so regular and common that I simply just became used to it. He's like, whatever. I was able to sleep solo once again. So there I am, lying down on the couch against the furthest back wall in my basement. This was generally where I slept and hung out at this point in life. I had 3 dogs, one of which was a little white chihuahua named Baby. She was the most timid, docile, scaredy cat of a dog that you could imagine. Everyone who has pets understands that you come to learn their general behavior. I had just turned off the lights and popped onto my back, where my little baby jumped up to sleep on my chest like she always does. This is where single most terrifying thing in my life happened. Baby instantly goes to alert and stand up growling into the darkness. She does not ever act like this. Her fur is raised and her fangs are bared. I can immediately perceive that this little dog is trying to defend me from something despite her tiny stature.
No.
This puts me on full alert, and I sit up to also peer into the darkness while she still stands a guard on my lap. Next thing I know, she cowers, her tail goes between her legs, and she whispers, and she whimpers and flees.
Aww.
Before I could gauge what's happening, my arms were pinned straight down to my side, and my back was forced straight down onto the couch. I can see enough to tell you with 100% certainty there's nothing there. While forced down, it feels as if I was pushed 5 feet through the couch, like my soul was straight pushed out of my body. I was so consumed by fear that there wasn't a single thought in my head other than static and panic. It seemed like forever, but in reality it was probably 10 seconds. That is so scary.
Yeah. It's like a whole new level of haunting.
Yeah.
Oof.
Shouldn't have fucked with the Ouija board.
I mean, probably shouldn't have done a lot of those things.
Yeah. As soon as this force let go of me, I hopped straight up in my undies and darted through the darkness toward the stairs. This is the part I wanted to make crystal clear because this right here is the part you never want to experience. Those who think the paranormal and ghosts are cool have not experienced the sensation I'm about to describe. I tell you, I felt a tangible hatred that was unlike anything I've ever felt. It was the feeling of something that hated every fiber of your being and wanted nothing more than to destroy every last bit of you in the most malevolent way possible. It was unhuman, the sensation. It was in this moment that I understood hell is real, and this was something from there. There was no doubt in my mind, it was a sense of knowing absolutely. It was the predator, and you were the prey. I scrambled room to room in my house, and just like before, every light bulb was shattering. I could not escape the darkness. I made it to the second floor and burst into my parents' room screaming. I swear on everything, they would not wake up. I shook them and yelled, nothing. I then ran to the only other person in the house at the time, my little brother. Same thing, he would not wake up. It was like trying to shake somebody out of a coma. I tell you in all honesty, I was 18, considered myself a man at this point, and I had loads of pride. Still, this did not stop me from hopping right into my brother's bed next to him, pulling the blanket over me. Now you would think at this point I was safe, right? Wrong. This thing repeated what it did in the basement. It took a hold of my body over and over. I could feel my mind breaking and my soul dying right in my very body. After the 10th time, I was completely hopeless. I had almost given in to defeat, on the verge of being scared to death and demolished by demons. This is when I remembered something I heard many times from Christian upbringing. Pray to Jesus. I swear to you on my eternal soul and all that I love and hold dear, the moment I cried out to Jesus, the shit stopped on a dime. 15 years have passed at this point, and I have not experienced a single thing mentioned ever again. I haven't even come close to getting the feeling that something paranormal is near. Every single bit of my experience vanished. For the next year straight, I started praying at night, spending at least 15 minutes per night before bed, going through all my prayers. Though I don't pray as much, I am every bit as faithful, if not more, at this point in life. However, that's not the complete end to this saga. The very next morning, I tried my best to explain to my parents what happened. I can't say they fully believed me, but they at least listened enough to help me out. I thought about how it all seemed to start when I first used the Ouija board, which led me to do a quick online search on how to dispose of such a thing, because I did not want that thing/portal anywhere near me again. It said online that the only way to truly close it was to burn the Ouija board. So that same day, my parents and I brought it out back to the fire pit. Now, I must say, I was hasty there and left the bidding to my parents because I didn't even want to look at the thing or be near it anymore. Funny enough, it was years later that I was regaling the events with my mother when she gave me a bit of surprising news. She proceeded to tell me that she did in fact believe me because that day, unknown to me, the Ouija board would not burn. She expressed how she and my father doused it with gasoline and it was still unscathed. They ultimately threw it out in the trash and watched the dump truck take it away.
That makes me think of the latest Conjuring movie with the mirror.
I figured that must have been good enough because, again, nothing ever came back. I like to imagine that it eventually got incinerated at the junkyard at some point. That's pretty much the end of that. But I can still provide one more after happening that I found quite coincidental. When I was speaking of my mother and father, it was really my mother and stepfather. I say this because when I finally told my blood father this ordeal, he went on to tell me all about how he was severely haunted in his youth, and similar to me was a non-believer who happened to call out to Jesus for help. I can't say for certain, but this has led me to believe that there may in fact be some kind of hereditary thing going on here. Like I started out saying, I have not fabricated or embellished even one bit of this. I have pondered the thoughts of such things as mental disorders, but to that degree, I still have two things to go against that. Number one, doctors have continually found my mental health to be fine. Number two, no matter what the case, it stopped forever on the drop of a dime the moment I called to Jesus. There may be a few more things I'm blanking on ATM because I have been writing this for the past 2 hours, so I'm getting to the point where my brain is fizzing, lol. But I am more than happy to take on and answer any questions you may have. Edit, beware, 3 a.m. something about this was legit. Wasn't until 3:30 a.m. that it seemed to die down. Can't honestly tell you why the 3 a.m. thing comes into effect, but there was always an extra intensity in that gap. There's a few more edits, but it was more concerning about like him responding to comments, and
Mhm.
it wasn't very like there's not really any updates or anything. So, what do you think about this story?
I mean, this story is crazy. So much happened.
Yeah, it's like a whole movie.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting that calling out to Jesus was enough
Mm-hmm.
to like stop everything.
It seemed like that spirit was very powerful to be
Yeah.
able to move things and break lamps or
Mhm.
blowing up light bulbs and turning TV on without it being plugged in, like
Yeah,
all these crazy things. Is it electrical demon?
maybe.
It's always like a family moves into a new house and all these things start happening.
Mhm.
So is a demon attached to a specific spot, or is there maybe like a portal in this specific area? Because
Mm.
sometimes people play with Ouija boards and nothing happens.
There's definitely something about this location. Maybe, like you said, a portal. And then this person was very into supernatural. They literally said they did everything to reach the other side, probably attracted something.
Someone said, "What did your parents say about all the broken bulbs in the house?" Someone had to have noticed that and questioned what happened. The OP said they sided with the logical, most likely an electrical problem. We replaced 4 bulbs and that was that. They never actually looked into the wiring. I hate to admit, but we have assessed it in that house. I think a lot of people are kind of like not believing that it's a real story
Mm.
just because it's so detailed.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of crazy stuff happened with like the technology turning on without being plugged in, things moving around, the person being like held down.
And I think a lot of people said you just probably like made it all up kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's like movies are based on real things. From what we
True.
understand, like all the demons actually are mentioned in old text,
Yeah.
the ones that they mention in movies. So I'm assuming they still do their research.
Okay, so this next story is from r/ghosts, and it's called Demonic Entity Attachment, Unlike Anything You've Read Before. I need to write this down and share because this is a totally different experience than just ghosts, angels, demons, and all that. I feel like you'll be very intrigued and confused if you can read this entire story. This is a long story about an entity I have had attached to me for roughly 2.5 to 3 years now. And honestly, I'm so heightened to experiences that I was never really terrified or wanting to cleanse the energy away due to the fact that I have very different and abstract spiritual beliefs only because of my personal experiences. I seriously believe that whatever this entity was, it was never human or a part of our realm. I will go more in depth later in the story, but this creature almost mocks the Christian ideologies of angels and demons. This entity is neither negative nor positive, and I believe it does not have a gender, although I feel a more masculine presence than a feminine one. So let's begin. The first experience I ever had with this creature clicked in my head and had made me shift my idea on how the entity became attached to me. At first, I believed that it was because I used a Ouija board, and a few days later, I noticed the presence a lot more. But no, I have later remembered that I did a guided third eye meditation, which is no longer on YouTube, and I'm glad it's not because if this happened to someone who wasn't as capable with energies, I would be very worried.
I do those.
I've definitely
That's
done those too.
so creepy. The fact that like imagine you're just doing like a meditation and then it just tells you like it just almost like summons a demon. That's creepy.
Trick ya!
I've been kind of worried about that happening to me, but I've also been listening to like white noise when I fall asleep. And I've heard of people playing it on like YouTube and then they wake up to like screams and like almost like hell sounds
What the fuck?
because it just randomly was added to because it's a 10-hour thing. I don't know, halfway through it has like creepy noises in it or something.
Ew, whoever made that.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. I listen to rain sounds when I sleep, so whoever made that rain sound on YouTube, you better not add hell sounds to it because I'll be upset. The meditation I did about 4.5 years ago was very strange. I remember laying down in my bed and listening to the voice in the video. It asked you to start breathing in a very strange way. You had to almost have a shaking breathing style and listen to audios I have never heard on any other guided or non guided meditation. And I've participated in endless amounts of them. During the meditation, I felt and envisioned a large black hand with long nails on the left side of my chest. It felt as if I was sitting up in my bed, and I could feel the hand push me gently back down to the bed. I didn't want to break the meditative state, and even though my heart began to race, I continued to keep my eyes closed, and I followed till the end of the meditation when I could hear the voice giving cues to wake up again. After sitting up, all I could see was a strange purple aura around everything I looked at. After that meditation, I never really noticed the energy/hand again until fast forwarding a few years to when I used the Ouija board.
Stop using the Ouija board!
For the love of God! A few days after using the board, I started to feel a very angry masculine presence in the far corner of my garage, the same garage I used the board in. I paid no mind to it at first, due to the fact that ever since I was a child, I had been having experiences and feeling energies, so at that point I was accustomed to it. The energy started to become more comfortable with my presence, and I began to no longer feel the negative energy. I can feel a very heavy energy in my stomach and chest, but it is no longer dark and negative. After a few months of feeling the presence every day, it began, for the lack of a better language, trying to fuck with me more in a childish yet more powerful way than I've ever felt any other energy do. This energy, I strongly believe, is the most powerful I have ever personally encountered, and possibly will ever encounter. The entity would always be behind me when I was walking to the garage door to leave. Many times I would go to open the door and it would close itself. I could feel the entity behind me, and I started to talk aloud to it from then on. I don't get verbal responses that I can hear, or responses at all. It's more the entity will do something in response to my words, or will shift the energy I'm feeling as to give a response. The entity definitely likes to use doors when it wants my attention, but it has actually touched me, like during the meditation and a few other times. I was with my friend at probably 2 a.m. in our small town in a grocery store parking lot on our bikes. We didn't want to drive since it was summer and we were taking in the fresh air. I closed my eyes while standing in the empty parking lot. I was hovering over my bike and my friend was beside me. All of a sudden, I felt those same black hands with sharp nails gently on my lower back.
That's unpleasant.
On your lower back?
This demon thinks he's dating you.
Yeah. I immediately opened my eyes and looked to my friend, who could immediately see something had happened. I asked if she had touched me, which she said no, since she was beside me the whole time. She would start to sometimes feel the entity's energy around me. One time I was driving, probably a couple of weeks after the parking lot incident, and she seen the hand come beside my face while I was driving. The same summer we were on a trip together with 2 other people. There was a small pond near the Airbnb we were staying at, and at about 3 a.m., we were about to go to the pond, and one of the people we were with yelled, "Hail Satan!" into the pond forested area. I told my friend after that the entity was planting the idea in my head that we shouldn't go in there. I was feeling super heavy, and as I said, she had a look in her eyes that I won't forget. She mentioned she could see the dark entity wrapping its arms around my shoulders as if to hold me down to not go in.
Oh, wow. Well, is it trying to protect her almost?
Maybe. When we went into the pond area anyway, a light from the utility shed kept flashing on and off, and a total of 3 separate times, my friend and I knew we all had to pack up our stuff and leave the bench we were sitting on. We left the pond, and the next day, the other 2 people on the trip who aren't very spiritually inclined or open to it left for the day. My friend and I went back to the pond. We both had an overwhelming need to, for whatever reason. We noticed the bench we were sitting on the night before was a memorial bench, and the 2 others had disrespected that space. That is why the entity was trying to get me to leave the pond that first night. So the person that died, I guess, was pissed, and the entity was like, "You should get out of here.
Yo, let's bail!"
This is why the entity was trying to get me to leave the pond that first night. Fast forward after the summer trip to around October 2009, I started dating my significant other, and my friend from before was at my significant other's house with me and her boyfriend at the time. We were all sitting at the kitchen table, and the door behind us opened by itself. My friend looked at me and said, "Hey," so I replied, "That's not very nice, sir, close the door." Needless to say, everyone almost died of shock when the door immediately closed. This is when I started to really know that this entity is very, very real. It will do things in front of the people I'm around, and not just in front of me, which was what really stuck in my head. Other small experiences included the shower curtain blowing open when I was showering, the screen door to my house holding open once I swung it open, and there was no wind. The door near my entryway always opens when I haven't paid much attention to the entity's presence, and it wants to remind me. When I was watching The Nun, he mimicked the hands over my face in the coffin scene to mock the Christian demons in the movie, and I could go on. I think you get the idea. Okay, this demon has a sense of humor, it seems.
Like, ooh, I'm the nun. Look at my long nails.
Look at me! This entity I noticed has a purple aura, which is what made me realize that it was attached to me, most likely because of the meditation. Anyways, this entity is still always around me. Just yesterday, I got goosebumps and chills over my entire body when I was in a down mood and I could feel the entity directly behind me, not trying to drain my energy, but I was feeling very alone, and it was almost like it was trying to comfort me.
Aww.
It's a nice demon. Demon. Maybe it's a daimon, not a demon. I heard those are nice. I've decided that I'm not going to try and cleanse this energy away, and I let it stay for as long as it feels like it's... What?
I love how she's just like, I'm fine with this one. Lingering.
I mean, if it like...
Not the choices I would make.
It kind of protected her, though.
Yeah.
From the other
Still,
spirit.
though.
Yeah, maybe it's waiting for the right moment. It's like protecting its meal from other demons. It's like, I'll save it for later.
I claimed her.
I've decided that I'm not going to try and cleanse this energy away, and I let it stay for as long as it feels like it, since I'm not being drained, it's not hurting anyone, and I see no need to detach this entity if it doesn't want to go and it isn't doing anything. It's been attached to me fully for up to 3 years now. It's a normal part of my daily life. If you made it to the end of my scrambled story, I'm glad I could keep you interested. I'd love to know what you think of this. Any comments or questions would be appreciated.
I was just thinking like a montage of them like do do do
like running through the field.
That's a positive one at least.
Yeah, it's almost like a guarding spirit.
Maybe that meditation was a good one.
I mean, what kind of meditation was it? Because I've definitely done meditations to like meet your spirit guide. I don't know if it necessarily worked. It's hard to say if you're just imagining things or if
She
it's
also
actually...
says that she felt cold. So it's like she still gets the same kind of feeling if you're getting something haunting you in a way.
Yeah, but I also heard people experience that when working with like deities. Like,
I guess it's like a presence.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. With this one, I'm not sure if it's a positive one.
Is there any comments?
One of the comments says, this is actually kind of cute. It's like the entity needs you. Obviously, since it's attached to you, but in a way where you've developed a bond with it and now it's like a secret friendship, lol. Cool. Kind of. It's like a spirit buddy.
Bestie.
Bestie. I don't know how I would feel about that.
I know.
Someone says, perhaps it's your guardian spirit and you have made real contact with it. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking, is like it's a guardian spirit. And it's kind of like mocking the classic demon archetype, I guess.
You're just like, oh.
Yeah, oh, the demon. But yeah, this is a positive one. Love to see it. So I think we're going to end it here on a good note. We should probably cleanse the space just because we talked about a lot of negative stuff today.
Yeah.
Okay, we're cleansing the space of any negative energy. The space is cleansed and protected against negativity. No negative energies are allowed. Begone, thought.
So this is the end of our 6th episode. If you've gotten this far, thank you so much for listening. Remember to like and subscribe. Let us know in the comments which story you like the best and what topic you'd like us to cover next. If you want to check out the final art for today's episode, go to our Instagram at Baba Yaga's Crib. Also, if you want to follow us on TikTok at baba.yaga.crib. And see you next time if you find your way back.